If you're sick of bad teammates and stubborn picks, it's time to take control. These are the best solo queue heroes and builds, straight from your itemization authority. Climb fast, waste nothing. Endless Battle is perfect for Clint. His low cooldown skills let him spam true damage, and he benefits from the mana and cooldown reduction. Clint is one of the few heroes who can fully utilize every stat the item offers. Blade of the Heptasia suits assassins with their in-and-out burst playstyle. Its long reset makes it poor for marksmen, who rely on consistent DPS with little to no downtime. Berserker's Fury is far more practical, as it enables consistent critical damage output. You don't need to stack multiple crit items, one crit item is consistent enough. Malefic Gun extends the range of Clint's passive, making it a strong addition to his kit. Since Malefic Gun improves his mobility, you can afford to slot in a more damage-oriented item like Blade of Despair. Here's the rest of my recommended build. You may have seen players with multiple Blades of Despair. It doesn't work, guys. The passive doesn't stack, only the physical attack does. You'll get more value from a different item than from a duplicate. These top globals aren't focused on build optimization. Their goal is to create dynamic builds so their audience doesn't get bored of seeing the same one repeatedly. Imagine uploading 500 videos with the same build over and over. The audience wouldn't want to watch that. So, they come up with gimmick builds for entertainment. Can't really blame them though. The problem lies with the audience. They prefer entertainment over education. Itemization is about understanding the game's flow, choosing the right items, and managing your gold efficiently. Always adapt your build to the enemy lineup. Tough Boots is a popular pick for its crowd control reduction, but since it only offers magic resistance, we cover the lack of physical defense by grabbing 2 leather jerkins early. You can also slot in a healing necklace for some HP regeneration. It may not look like much, but it's deceptively effective. Dominance Ice is a standard pickup for its anti-heal passive, especially strong in today's Regen-heavy meta. Immortality, on the other hand, shines in the late game, typically as your 5th item, when deaths are more frequent and unavoidable. Here's the rest of the recommended build. Take a gander. We opt for Concussive Blast as our tier 3 talent. It helps your team farm more safely and deals bonus damage during fights. To anyone that's new to my channel, I'm the leading itemization coach expert and analyst. I have helped players reach top global and improve their yellow points, and I can do the same for you. Masha is very flexible and can be played in multiple roles. That's great for solo players since teammates are often stubborn and won't adjust. Her passive deals HP-based damage equal to just 3% of her physical attack. That's too low to justify investing in expensive physical scaling items like Blade of Despair. The gain is just too small for such a costly item. Her best option is to stack penetration items. She also needs some tank items. It would be irresponsible not to, especially if you're playing her as the core and holding Retribution. Here are the rest of the recommended builds, take a gander. Revamped Kimmy build update. Kimmy's stats say she benefits 50% from lifesteal and spell vamp, but damage test shows she actually gets 100%. Even so, her damage is low. Feather of Heaven is overrated. Kimmy only gets 6% scaling from its passive Affliction. It also does not benefit from either lifesteal or spell vamp. On the other hand, Berserker's Fury, despite having no lifesteal stat, amplifies the lifesteal from concentrated energy when it crits, since the crit multiplies your total damage output. Berserker's Fury also has a steeper power spike, enhancing Kimmy's innate physical damage much earlier, while Feather of Heaven needs late-game scaling to even get close in terms of damage output. In terms of raw damage, Berserker's Fury outperforms Feather of Heaven throughout the game, but not by a crazy amount. Price also comes into play. Feather of Heaven is a bit cheaper, and there's a 5% cooldown reduction difference. Now that I've done a more thorough review, I'm leaning towards Feather of Heaven. Kimmy's damage output isn't much better than her pre-revamped version. The main improvement is in her utility, so don't shy away from picking up a utility item like Glowing Wand. It helps unburden your main damage-type mage from having to build it themselves. Kimmy is a late-game hero, therefore, we prioritize utility and sustain early. Delay damage items until scaling is more efficient. Blood Wings adds survivability through bonus HP and shield. It's typical for players to focus on maximizing a hero's damage output while neglecting durability, and they blame the Dark System, not realizing that their itemization is the Dark System. Concentrated Energy provides HP and regeneration to maintain her health points. Divine Glaive provides magic penetration. Build after acquiring sufficient magic power. Holy Crystal scales well with other magic items. Not efficient as a first major purchase due to its cost. Just to update you guys with Kimmy's attack speed, It's 7.6 hits per second. It might come as a surprise, but MPL and esports players aren't actually that good at itemization. Now you might be thinking, how did they even become pros if they don't know how to itemize? Well, simple. They've mastered micro, macro, and team coordination. But itemization? That's a different story. You can see them making mistakes, clear as day, buying questionable items. Take Hayabusa, for example. Most players, no matter the ELO, go for an attack speed knife, thinking it helps them farm faster. That's just placebo. Here's the paradox. Faster attack speed actually slows farming. The knife increases his attack rate, sure, but it doesn't help his farming speed. In fact, it does the opposite. What you want is higher damage per hit, not more hits. The dagger does that. And unlike the knife, the dagger can be upgraded into Fury Hammer. That matters. Because the knife? Dead end. It delays his power spike and limits his early gain. But this isn't something you figure out through experience. Itemization is a different beast. Most players just don't have the itemization knowledge to interpret their experience correctly, so they end up drawing the wrong conclusions. Now, onto itemization. The Sky Piercer nerf might seem small, but it's actually huge. The lower execution threshold makes it not worth buying anymore. Endless battle just gives more value. Whether the true damage comes at the start or the end doesn't matter. It's about reliable output. Some players worry it's hard to land the true damage. Actually, it's not. Here's a demonstration. Here's my recommended build for Hayabusa. Start with Fury Hammer and Legion Sword. That's your early game damage. Upgrade Fury Hammer into Hunter Strike. Then, buy another Fury Hammer. Finally, upgrade Legion Sword into Malefic Roar. Let's review Ling's RBB, or real best build. It's crucial to get a Fury Hammer and a Legion Sword to snowball. Don't prioritize crit items because they suck. Ling is renowned as a crit-oriented hero. He gains 60% more crit chance but deals 50% less crit damage. That's a 60 to 50 ratio. And that seems like a favorable trade-off, until you look deeper into the mathematics. I encourage our lovable math nerds to comment on the equation. I'm sure we have community members that would like to know more. Berserker's Fury is exceptional because of its passive that increases crit damage. However, its value depends on his skill Finch Poise. The more crit chance you have, the better, and early game, you ain't got much. Fury Hammer is only a component. Moreover, consider a compound item with the same efficiency. Think about it. 36 flat penetration and 105 physical attack power for only 2,490 gold. Now that's broken. Sure, armor counters flat pen, but it also counters crit damage, making flat pen still mathematically better. Berserker's Fury will be delayed, but that's the main idea. It's not the most effective item in the early game. It's dependent on the level of Finch Poise. And no, you can't prioritize upgrading Finch Poise for the crit chance. It doesn't help. Fury Hammer offers a faster power spike. There is uptime and downtime. This concept may be new to people who've never been in the itemization community. Getting Fury Hammer early doesn't delay his power spike, it accelerates it. People may appeal to experience, as if it's infallible. Guess what? I've talked to these people, and they don't really know how to interpret their own results. They're just guessing, going off gut feel or popular belief. They're not speaking from knowledge. Power spikes aren't about item tier, they're about timing and value. It's the same itemization error you see with people buying Blade of Despair as their first item. It's about when the item delivers peak impact, not how expensive or final it looks on the surface. Ling can leap from wall to wall, and because of this ability, players tend to overestimate his mobility, dismissing items with extra movement speed stats as redundant. They fail to recognize that Ling isn't always on the walls, he spends a fair bit of time on the ground. The extra mobility helps with chasing and escaping, as well. When he has exhausted his skills ideally, you want to return to base or find other activities. However, there are critical moments where the best play is to stand by and wait for an opportunity to hit and run with his second skill, Defiant Sword. And these scenarios happen more frequently than you might think. Faster movement speed is also crucial for optimal placement of his ultimate, Tempest of Blades. Poor positioning can impede his ability to collect all 4 swords, limiting his damage potential and hindering his ability to disengage. Wind Talker is also essential for farming and is managing the minion waves, especially in the late stages of the game when there's a lot of lane pressure. Sure, Ling only has a 40% attack speed ratio that may seem unattractive, but his physical attack has the same 40% scaling. In addition, Wind Talker provides bonus burst damage through its passive, Typhoon. On top of that, he still needs at least one attack speed item, and not having one actually leads to a diminishing marginal return on his damage output. The Great Dragon Sword gives you a speed up when you use your ultimate. That might sound like a good thing, but it's actually a restriction. The effect is tied to his ultimate, meaning you can't benefit from it freely like you can with Windtalker's consistent bonus movement speed. The 10% cooldown reduction isn't enough compensation. Pharsa's claws can be good for range-type heroes that can lifesteal from a safe distance, but it's not ideal for a melee hero who can only stay in combat for a quick moment. Once he's burned his skills, he has to back off. Endless Battle beats Pharsa's claws with added mobility, CDR, and stronger synergy with Ling's burst and run playstyle. The two were close in damage before nerfs to Pharsa's claws and Ling's attack speed ratio. Now the gap is clear. The true damage makes up for the lack of crit, and it still offers enough lifesteal to dance with the Lord and recover from damage. Swift Crossbow and Corrosion Scythe are unnecessary. Windtalker is the preferred attack speed item because it offers more value. Rose Gold Meteor and Malefic Roar are self-explanatory. I see players use the talent Killing Spree. They are being optimistic and kill hungry. The optimal talent is Lethal Ignition. It has the best chance of securing kills. For the Tier 1 talent, use either Agility for faster mobility or Fatal to boost his crit damage. Ready to crush the Dark System and absolutely dominate the game? Join my private itemization club. Learn my secret itemization methods, insights, and game-changing innovations. Stay miles ahead. You'll also get a free, guaranteed in-depth guide for your favorite hero, and every perk that comes with it. The Wishing Lantern nerf is definitely a tough one. The minimum 50 magic damage only kicks in when the target has 625 HP. But to activate the Wishing Lantern, you actually need to deal 800 magic damage. So if you hit a target with 625 HP, you're doing 800 magic damage, meaning the target will likely die before that minimum 50 magic damage has any room to activate. It's a pretty dumb mechanic when you break it down. Sure, magic resistance is a factor, and you might need 2 shots to deal the required damage. But even if the target's HP is over 625, the first shot might bring them down to 300 HP, and then the second shot finishes them off. The 50 magic damage still won't activate. It's not that it has no chance of activating, but it's almost never going to trigger in these situations. Selena's recent buff makes her more playable and flexible, so it's time for a build update. Start with Magic Shoes for cooldown reduction. More skills, more kill pressure. Starlium's Scythe works perfectly with her low cooldowns, letting her trigger its true damage often. Glowing Wand is mainly for anti-heal, so you can skip it if the enemy doesn't rely on regeneration or healing effects. Blood Wings? The value is too good to ignore. More mobility is always a plus. You may have noticed that I've been recommending Sky Piercer less and less. That is due to the high miss rate of execution. You're better off with other items. Moving on to Esmeralda. If you're playing solo or duo and your team's composition is looking suspicious, you might want to err on flexibility, opting for a hybrid build, allowing for both lane management and teamfight presence, and not being limited to serving as a glorified frontliner. Tough Boots is a must-have for frontline heroes, as they are the most vulnerable to control effects. When pinned down, you can't use your micro, and the risk of getting killed increases. Here are 2 different builds for flexibility. Build A, damage-oriented. Build B, if you need a tankier build. Avoid buying War Axe. This item is not compatible with Fanny. Her damage is front-loaded, while War Axe is back-loaded. She can't trigger the true damage or fully benefit from most of its stacks. Fanny's burst playstyle simply doesn't align with the item's stacking mechanic. The spell vamp feature isn't worth it as it offers minimal value on Fanny. Start with Blade of the Heptasias, and buy an extra Fury Hammer, followed by Malefic Roar. Not many players know this, but it's standard to buy Immortality as your 5th item for added security. This is the phase of the game where deaths are most common, and big objectives happen simultaneously. One mistake, and the match can be lost. The passive Resurrect has a long cooldown, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It's not ideal to wait for it. You can sell the item after the passive Resurrect has been activated to use the gold and help build the next item faster. You may rebuy Immortality as your last item and then resell it to buy any defensive item of your choice. Here's the rest of the recommended builds. If you're new to itemization, this principle of buying and selling items may seem like a novelty, but this strategy has been around for years. Don't worry, you're not wasting gold. There's a method to the madness. Buy Magic Blade and place Rose Gold Meteor in the queue. This allows you to have 2 shields. Lastly, when you have enough gold to buy Blade of Despair, sell the extra Fury Hammer. Lucas is weak in the early game, especially as an EXP laner, where he gets bullied by most matchups. His kit, much like Jéja's, is highly dependent on his ultimate, making him struggle before level 4. Because of this, I believe jungle is his best position, as it allows him to skip the landing phase and focus on farming safely until he comes online. If you play him in the EXP lane, buying 2 healing necklaces early can help you maintain your health points. Regardless of role, Cursed Helmet is a solid core item for Lucas, providing both durability and passive damage. After that, build Antique Cuirass or Radiant Armor depending on the enemy's damage type to maximize survivability. Recommended build. Going full defense is a safe and effective approach, allowing Lucas to stay in fights longer and get full value from his kit. For battle spells, take Flicker for mobility or Retribution if playing jungle. Suyo's passive provides damage reduction based on physical attack. But don't let that fool you into thinking you should max out physical attack. It's more about choosing the right physical attack items. For example, Hunter Strike gives you 80 physical attack points, while Blade of Despair offers 160 physical attack points, or double that of Hunter Strike, plus its passive Despair that scales your physical attack. However, you'll want to wait until later in the game to fully take advantage of that passive. The high cost of Blade of Despair is another reason to delay it. Early on, you can use components like Fury Hammer as fillers until your gold income picks up. Speaking of Fury Hammer, you don't really need Blade of the Heptasias. Just the Fury Hammer will do. Queen's Wings damage reduction stacks with Suyo's passive, but the effect is limited due to diminishing return. Furthermore, the damage reduction provided by Queen's Wings has always been insufficient. In addition, his damage distribution is front-loaded and this item is back-loaded. Here's the rest of my recommended build. You don't need to get Blade of Despair right away. When you have 2 Legion swords, you still have the option to upgrade one to Malefic Roar depending on the situation. Suyo's performance decreases without defensive items, regardless of damage output. At least 1 or 2 defensive items are necessary to maintain durability and effectiveness in the late game.
Florin has a limited inventory. She can only buy 5 items, thus we have to be tactical with our build. It would be great if our mage can provide the anti-heal because that gives us a free item slot and allows us to get our utility items faster. Having to buy anti-heal conflicts with other necessities like mana items. The solution is to use basic common emblem. Since we get enough mana from it, we are able to use fleeting time with its special CDR. When it comes to our defense items, we have to be very selective due to the limited slot. Just identify the most threat and buy the appropriate defense item. Antique Cuirass against physical assassins or Athena Shield against magic heavy Kong. If they don't have any hero that can get to you, you may opt for Oracle for the CDR. Revitalize is becoming popular, however, it's not necessary. Purify or Flicker is far more important. You have to account for your survival because if you get picked off, you die and can't help anyone. Here are the rest of the recommended builds, take a gander. Pharsa is still quite strong and they might be missing out on her potential. She's got high mobility and high damage. Let's get right into the itemization. We begin with Arcane Boots and Genius Wand to stack the pens and armor debuff, boosting an early snowball potential. Remember to get a magic necklace for mana when playing as the mid laner. The next damage item is Blood Wings as it provides shield and extra movement speed. Pharsa is not a utility mage, it's not her duty to prioritize buying the anti-heal item. Your teammates should buy it, but if you must adjust because they're neglecting their responsibility, then by all means adjust. This is the featured player's recommended build. I don't think they realize how bad Lightning Truncheon is, the cost to damage efficiency is worse than ever. This is a dead item in my book. Sky Piercer is also not ideal, with her kit she can rarely activate that execute. Here's the real best build.
Up next is Hilda. You can play her as the roamer or the XP laner. Tough Boots is preferred for its passive crowd control reduction time. It's a vital stat for frontliners like Hilda as she is exposed to crowd control. Prioritize Antique Cuirass or Athena's Shield for survival purposes. Dominance Eyes can be acquired later in the game since mages tend to buy anti-heal now. Thunderbelt is best treated as a utility item. If you need the extra mobility, consider getting it later, after securing your core durability items. A common mistake players make is rushing Thunderbelt and chasing that true damage. They have unrealistic expectations with how much hybrid defense they can collect. When the enemy team lacks crowd control, Hilda can be an excellent roamer. Her ability to engage and disengage freely allows her to harass opponents without much risk. It's a good idea to pair her with Angela or Florin, The emergency shield and healing can bail her out when she runs into some trouble due to her playing style. Here's the rest of the build, take a look. Concussive Blast is ideal for extra damage, helping with wave clears and pressuring the enemy core. Next in line is Noveria. We need enchanted talismans for mana and cooldown reduction. Increasing CD reduction allows for more frequent skill usage. The logic is that 2 snipes are better than 1 and 3 snipes are better than 2 and so on. For the second item, we opt for the Glowing Wand. This item not only provides anti-heal, it also works well with her multi-hit skills. Divine Glaive is crucial for enhancing damage output. In the case of Noveria, only a small percentage of the damage output originates from magic power while the majority stems from HP-based damage. Therefore, acquiring this penetration item is essential to improve overall damage output. Here's the rest of the recommended build. Glo had a rework. His second skill now works like his old ultimate. You can split by choice and don't need to wait for stacks. However, you still need to build stacks on your target to attach to them. Avoid Glowing Wand. Just because he has a skill that deals similar damage doesn't mean it synergizes with him. That's not how synergy works. In addition, Glo has more important needs. Cursed Helmet, however, works well, reducing the target's defense while you're attached. Dominance Ice provides anti-heal against heroes reliant on regeneration. It also offers physical defense, and reduces the attacker's attack speed for a few seconds. Antique Cuirass is effective against physical skill-type heroes. It also indirectly counters hybrid-type heroes with magic damage. Oracle grants cooldown reduction. Its hybrid defense isn't as high as other options, but the CDR and enhanced healing compensate for the lower stats. Athena's shield only lasts for 3 seconds, while Glut tends to stay in combat much longer. Go for Radiant Armor instead. Immortality is for precaution. Sell it immediately after its passive is used, since the cooldown is long. Here's the rest of my recommended build. When playing Glo, watch out for these heroes, Vexena, Faramus, Xborg, and Cece, as they counter him hard. Next in line is Melissa. Players tend to be biased toward damage-oriented builds, overlooking one of Melissa's biggest weaknesses, her poor wave clear. This becomes problematic when defending against the Siege, a Lord March, or dealing with split pushes. Wingtalker can solve that issue, but there's a trade-off. Not using the traditional build greatly reduces DPS to enemy heroes. Nevertheless, it's a necessary evil to sacrifice some damage output for a more effective build. At the end of the day, it's not just about damage, but the ability to win games. They changed Windtalker's passive Typhoon. The cooldown is now based on attack speed, not crit chance. This means that we have less incentives to stack crit items. By the way, it's a misconception that you need to stack crit items or have at least one crit item for consistency. That's just a layman's interpretation, not backed by science or in-depth itemization theory. Malefic Gun's range extension is percentage-based, meaning heroes with longer attack ranges gain more extra range, while the effect is less relevant for shorter-range heroes and not optimal for close-range ones. For mid-range heroes like Melissa, who has a 4.6 attack range, the impact is less obvious. However, she is still compatible with the item. Here's my recommended build. That said, the current meta is shifting from crowd control heavy team compositions to damage-centric ones, giving Melissa a real chance to rejoin the meta. Without the constant threat of crowd control, she can now freely utilize the battle spell Inspire, something she couldn't do before. Let's get right into Angela's itemization. Demon Shoes is unnecessary. Mana sustain is not an issue. Our mana may get low, but it never runs out. Just don't waste your mana helping teammates clear the lane. It's not your duty. Instead, go bush camp somewhere and provide vision. Improving our survival rate is the top priority, not infinite mana. We invest in proper defensive boots so we aren't easily sent to the Shadow Realm. Against less proficient players, Demon Shoes might be alright, but that can lead to a bad habit. Therefore, avoid it like the plague and always prioritize optimization over comfort. Before you buy any magic items, get 1 or 2 leather jerkins or magic resist cloaks first. Despite the recent nerf, they are still very cost-effective and quite reliable. Here's the rest of the recommended build, take a gander. It's generally better to avoid magic damage items on Angela, as they're often not necessary. While some players might suggest damage builds, those tend to work mainly when the enemy team isn't very strong. For most competitive games, focusing on support and utility tends to be more effective. Ready to crush the dark system and absolutely dominate the game? Join my private itemization club, learn my secret itemization methods, insights, and game-changing innovations. Stay miles ahead. You'll also get a free, guaranteed in-depth guide for your favorite hero, and every perk that comes with it.